audible. He's been coming to the shop more often, talking to me, telling me that I deserve more than this, that I deserve to live in luxury. A long time ago, in a small village in Ondo, there lived a humble, handsome man named Babajide. He was known far and wide as the best beans agege bread seller in the entire region. His small business had grown from a tiny stall by the roadside to a bustling spot where people from all walks of life gathered to taste his delicious beans, known as ewagoyin. Rich men, women, children, and even travelers passing through the village would stop by to enjoy a hot bowl of Babajide's famous beans. Every morning, before the sun had even risen, Babajide would wake up, say a short prayer, and then begin his day by preparing the beans. He had a special recipe passed down to him by his late mother, which made his beans taste unlike any other. The beans were soft, spicy, had a flavor that lingered in your mouth, making you crave more with every bite. His wife Basira would join him in the early hours, helping to knead the dough for the agege bread, which would be baked fresh every morning. But not everything was as perfect as it seemed. Basira was not happy with the business. She had always dreamt of living a life of luxury, wearing fine clothes, expensive jewelry, and mingling with the wealthy. She was beautiful with a bright smile and a lively spirit that attracts many customers. But deep down, Basira was dissatisfied. She resented the long hours spent working in the small shop, serving beans and bread to the villagers. Basira's discontent grew each day while Babajide was focused on providing the best beans and breads to his customers. Basira was more interested in chatting with the rich men who came to the shop. She would laugh and joke with them, often forgetting her duties. And sometimes she would daydream about what life could be if she were married to one of them instead of Babajide. Babajide noticed his wife's growing unhappiness, but he loved her dearly and tried to make things better. He would buy her small gifts, compliment her beauty, and remind her of how important she was to him and the business. But Basira's mind was elsewhere, and she found little joy in the little life they had built together. One day, as the sun was setting and the last customers were finishing their meals, Babajide sat down with Basira. "My dear," he began, his voice soft and gentle, "I know you are unhappy. I can see it in your eyes. But this business, it is our life. It is what keeps us going, and the people love what we do. They come from far and wide just to taste our beans and bread." Basira sighed, her eyes distant. "I know, Babajide, but sometimes I wonder, is this all there is? Is this the life we are meant to live forever, serving beans and bread to people while others live in luxury?" Babajide took her hand in his and looked deeply into her eyes. "Basira, we may not be rich in money, but we are rich in love, in community, and in the joy we bring to others. That is worth more than any amount of wealth. But if you are truly unhappy, then we can talk about it. We can find a way to make things better together." Basira nodded, but her heart was still heavy. She loved Babajide, but she couldn't shake the feeling that she was meant for something more. As she lay in bed that night, her mind was filled with thoughts of what could be, and she wondered if she would ever find true happiness. Little did she know the coming days would bring unexpected events that would test her marriage, her loyalty, and her dreams. The next morning, the village was bustling with life as people hurried to Babajide's shop for their daily dose of ewa going and agege bread. The aroma of the freshly cooked beans and warm bread filled the air, drawing people in like a magnet. Babajide was in high spirits, chatting with his customers and making sure everyone was satisfied. But Basira was distracted. She couldn't stop thinking about the rich men who came to the shop, especially one in particular, Tunde, a wealthy businessman from the nearby town. Chief Tunde was a regular customer, always arriving in his shiny black car, dressed in fine clothes and wearing expensive cologne. He had a charming smile and a way of making Basira feel special. That morning, as Chief Tunde arrived at the shop, Basira's heart skipped a beat. She quickly fixed her head scarf, straightening her dress, and put on her brightest smile. "Good morning, Chief Tunde," she greeted him warmly. Chief Tunde smiled back, his eyes twinkling. "Good morning, my dear Basira. How are you today?" "I'm fine, Chief. And you?" "I'm well, thank you," he replied, his voice smooth and confident. "But I must say, I'm even better now that I have seen your beautiful face." Basira blushed, her heart fluttering. She knew she shouldn't be so flattered by his words, but she couldn't help it. There was something about Chief Tunde that made her feel alive, something she didn't feel with Babajide. As they chatted, Tunde ordered his usual, a large bowl of beans with extra sauce and 2 loaves of agege bread. But today, he lingered at the counter longer than usual, asking Basira about her day, her life, and her dreams. "Basira," he said softly, "you are too beautiful and intelligent to be stuck in a small shop like this. You deserve so much more." Basira's heart raised. "What do you mean, Chief?" "I mean, a woman like you should be living a luxury, enjoying the finer things in life. You should be wearing the finest clothes, driving the best cars, and living in a big house, not working in a small shop, serving beans and bread." Basira's mind spun with possibilities. Could it be true? Could she really have a different life, one filled with wealth and luxury? Chief Tunde continued, "If you were with a man like me, Basira, you would never have to worry about anything. I would take care of you, spoil you, and give you everything you desire." Basira's heart pounded in her chest. She knew she shouldn't be entertaining these thoughts, but the temptation was strong. She imagined herself living in a big house, wearing fine clothes, and being the envy of all the women in the village. But then she thought of Babajide, her husband, who loved her dearly, who worked hard every day to provide for them, who treated her with kindness and respect. Could she really betray him for a life of luxury? Chief Tunde leaned closer, his voice a whisper. "Think about it, Basira. You deserve more than this." Basira turned. Her mind was filled with conflicting thoughts, her heart pulling in 2 different directions. As Chief Tunde left the shop, she watched him drive away, her mind racing. That night, Basira couldn't sleep. The words of Chief Tunde echoed in her mind. "You deserve more than this," she tossed and turned, unable to shake the feeling of discontent that had been growing inside her. Babajide, sensing her restlessness, reached out to hold her hand. What is wrong, my dear? Basira hesitated, her heart heavy with guilt. Nothing, Babajide, just thinking. Babajide squeezed her hand gently. Whatever it is, we can face it together. Basira nodded, but deep down, she knew that the days ahead would bring challenges she was not prepared for. The temptation of a different life was strong, and she didn't know if she should resist it. The days passed, and Basira's mind became more and more consumed with thought of Tunde and the life he had described. She found herself daydreaming about what it would be like to live in luxury, to have everything she ever wanted to her fingertips. The simple life she had lived with Babajide, once enough to make her happy, now seemed dull and unfulfilling. Babajide, unaware of the turmoil in his wife's heart, continued to pour his love and energy into their business. He noticed that Basira had become more distant, but he attributed it to the stress of their daily work. He decided to surprise her with something special to lift her spirits. One evening, after the shop had closed and they were sitting together in their small living room, Babajide pulled out a small wrapped gift from behind his back. Basira, he said with a warm smile, I got something for you. Basira looked at him surprised. For me? What is it? Take, open it and see it for yourself, Babajide replied, his eyes shining with love. Basira unwrapped the gift to find a beautiful hand-carved wooden necklace. It was simple, but it was made with a care and love, a symbol of life they had built together. Babajide had spent days looking for the perfect piece, something that would show Basira how much he appreciated her. But instead of the joy he had hoped for, Babajide saw a flicker of disappointment in Basira's eyes. She forced a smile and thanked him, but her heart wasn't in it. She had been imagining gold and diamonds, not simple wooden jewelry. Do you like it? Babajide asked, his voice full of hope. It's nice though, Basira replied, trying to sound enthusiastic, but Babajide could tell she was not happy as he had hoped. The seeds of doubt began to grow in Babajide's heart. Was he not enough for her? Had he failed to give her the life she deserved? The thought weighed heavily on his mind, and he began to worry that he was losing the woman he loved. As the days went on, Basira's interactions with Chief Tunde became more frequent, and he would come to the shop more often, always finding an excuse to talk to her, to make her laugh, to remind her of the life she could have if she chose to be with him. Basira, though conflicted, found herself drawn to him more and more. One day, as Chitunde was leaving the shop, he turned to Basira and said, Basira, you know where to find me if you ever decide that you deserve more than this. Basira's heart skipped a beat. The choice was hers to make. She could continue with her life as it was with Babajide and their small shop, or she could take a risk and reach for the life of luxury that Chitunde promised. That night, as Basira lay in bed next to Babajide, her mind was a wide wind of emotions. She loved her husband, but the law of a different life was strong. She felt trapped between her love for Babajide and her desire for more. Babajide, sensing her unease, wrapped his arms around her and whispered, "I love you, Basira. Whatever happens, we will get through it together." But Basira couldn't respond. Her heart was torn in two, and she didn't know how much longer she could keep up the facade. The seed of doubt had been planted, and they were beginning to take root. The whispers of change were in the air. The winds that blew through the village seemed to carry secrets, and Basira felt as if they were speaking directly to her. Each day, the weight of her decision grew heavier, and she found herself more and more distant from Babajide. The shop, once a place of joy and community, now felt like a prison, holding her back from the life she secretly longed for. Babajide noticed the change in Basira. She was no longer the cheerful, loving wife he had known. She seemed distracted, her thoughts always elsewhere. He tried to engage her, to bring her back to the present, but nothing seemed to work. One evening, after a long day of serving customers, Babajide decided to take Basira for a walk to clear her mind. The sun was setting, casting a warm orange glow over the village. They walked in silence for a while, the only sound being the crunch of gravel under their feet. Finally, Babajide spoke. "Basira, I know something is troubling you. Please, talk to me. We can face anything together, but I need to know what is wrong." Basira hesitated, her heart heavy with guilt. She knew she should be honest with Babajide, but the words wouldn't come. How could she tell him that she was considering leaving him for another man, a man who promised her wealth and luxury, but who didn't love her like Babajide did? I am just tired, Babajide," she stammered. She finally said, avoiding his gaze, "It's been a long day, that's all." Babajide stopped walking and turned to her face, his eyes full of concern. "Basira, we have been together for so long. I know when something is bothering you. Please don't shut me out." Basira looked into his eyes and saw the love and worry there. Her heart ached, torn between her loyalty to Babajide and her desire for something more. She wanted to tell him the truth, to confess the thoughts that had been plaguing her, but she couldn't bring herself to do it. "Babajide, she stammered. She began, but the words caught in her throat. Before she could continue, a strong gust of wind blew through the trees, rustling the leaves and carrying with it a faint whisper. Basira shivered, feeling as though the wind was trying to tell her something, to push her in a certain direction. But what direction? Towards Babajide or towards Chief Tunde? Babajide noticed her shiver and wrapped his arms around her, pulling her close. "Let's go home, my love, it's already chilly." Basira nodded, grateful for the warmth of his embrace, but her mind was still in turmoil. As they walked back to their small home, she felt as though the wind were still whispering, urging her to make a choice. That night, as Basira lay in bed, she couldn't sleep. The wind outside seemed to be calling her name, urging her to take action. She tossed and tossed around and turned, her thoughts a tangling mess of emotions. She knew she couldn't go on like this, living with the weight of indecision. She had to choose, but how could she choose between the man who loved her unconditionally and the man who promised her the life she had always dreamed of. As the night wore on, Basira finally made a decision. She would go to Chief Tunde and hear him out. Maybe, just maybe, he could offer her something that Babajide couldn't. And if he couldn't, then he would have to find a way to be content with the life she had. But deep down, she knew that whatever decision she made, it would change her life forever. The next morning, Babajide woke up early, as he always did, to prepare the beans and bread for the day. He kissed Basira on the forehead before heading to the shop, hoping that today would be a better day, that somehow they could find their way back to each other. But Basira had other plans. She had decided to meet Chief Tunde, to hear what he had to say, and to finally put an end to the torment in her heart. She told Babajide that she needed to run some errands in the nearby town and would be back later in the day. Babajide, trusting her completely, didn't think twice about it and sent her off with a kiss and a smile. As Basira walked to the meeting place, her heart pounding in her chest, she knew what she was doing was dangerous, that it could lead to something she might regret. But she couldn't stop herself. She had to know if there was another life waiting for her, a life filled with the luxury and excitement she had always craved for. When she arrived at the agreed upon spot, a small clearing near the edge of the village, she saw Chief Tunde waiting for her. Leaning against his car, he looked up and smiled when he saw her, his eyes lighting up with excitement. "Basira, my dear," he greeted her, his voice smooth and charming. "I'm so glad you came." Basira forced a smile, her knives on edge. "I needed to talk to you, Chief Tunde. I need to understand. What exactly are you offering me?" Chief Tunde stepped closer, his gaze intense. "Basira, you deserve so much more than this simple life. You deserve to be treated like a queen, to have everything you have ever wanted, and I can give you that. But what about Babajide?" Basira asked, her voice trembling. "I love him, Chief. He's been good to me." Chief Tunde's expression softened, but his voice remained firm. "Babajide is a good man, no doubt, but he's holding you back, Basira. You have so much potential, so much to offer. Don't you want to live a life where you can truly shine?" Basira's heart ached with confusion. She wanted to shine, to be more than just a beans and bread seller's wife. But she also loved Babajide, and the thought of leaving him tore at her soul. "Basira," Chief Tunde continued, his voice low and persuasive, "if you come with me, I will give you to places you have only dreamed of. You will have everything you have ever wanted and more. All you have to do is to say yes." Basira looked into his eyes, searching for something, anything that would make this decision easier. But all she saw was the promise of a different life, one filled with luxury and excitement, but also one that would require her to leave behind everything she had ever known. She was about to respond when she suddenly felt a strong gust of wind blow through the clearing, rustling the leaves and sending a shiver down her spine. The wind seemed to be whispering to her again, urging her to make a choice. Basira closed her eyes, trying to block out the noise, the wind, the confusion. She needed to think, to decide what she truly wanted. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, she opened her eyes and looked at Chief Tunde. I need to, she stammered. I need time to think, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Chief Tunde frowned, clearly disappointed, but he nodded. Of course, my dear. Take all the time you need. But remember, I won't wait forever. The life I'm offering you won't be available forever. With that, he turned and got into his car, leaving Basira standing alone in the clearing, her heart heavy with indecision. As she watched him drive away, Basira felt a wave of relief wash over her. She hadn't made a decision yet, but at least she had bought herself some time to figure out what she truly wanted, and time to come to terms with the consequences of whatever choice she made. But as she walked back to the village, she couldn't shake the feeling that the wind were still whispering, still urging her to make a choice. And deep down, she knew that whatever decision she made, it would change her life forever. As Basira made her way to the village, her thoughts were a tangled web of emotion. She had always known that the life she lived with Babajide was simple, but she had never imagined that the temptation of something more could weigh her so heavily on her heart. The meeting with Chief Tunde had left her more confused than ever, and the burden of the decision she had made make her felt almost unbearable. When she returned home, Babajide was in the kitchen, humming a tune as he prepared the last batch of beans for the evening customers. The smells of the beans filled the air, warm and comforting, reminding Basira of the life they had built together. She stood in the doorway, watching him for a moment, and her heart ached with guilt. Basira, you are back, Babajide said cheerfully when he noticed her. He wiped his hands on his apron and walked over to her and gave her a kiss on her cheek. Did you get everything you needed in town? Basira nodded, forcing a smile. Yes, I did, Babajide, she replied. Babajide studied her face for a moment, sensing that something was still troubling her. Are you sure you are okay? You seem a bit distant. I am fine, Babajide, she replied, trying to sound convincing. Just a little tired, that's all. Babajide didn't press further, but the worry in his eyes was evident. He loved Basira deeply, and it pained him to see her so troubled. He wanted to help her, to take away whatever was causing her pain, but he didn't know how. As the days passed, the tension between Basira and Babajide grew. Babajide tried to be patient, to give Basira the space he thought she needed, but the distance between them only seemed to widen. Basira, on the other hand, found herself growing more and more restless. The weight of the secret she carried was becoming too much to bear, and she knew she couldn't keep it hidden forever. One evening, as they sat together after closing the shop, Babajide finally decided to confront the issue head on. He took Basira's hand in his hand, his eyes filled with love and concern. Basira, I can't pretend that everything is okay anymore, he said gently. I know something is bothering you, and I can't stand to see you so unhappy. Please tell me, what is going on with you? Whatever it is, we can face it together, please. Basira's heart pounded in her chest. She had been dreading this moment, knowing that she couldn't lie to Babajide any longer. But the truth was terrifying, and she didn't know how he would react. Babajide, she began, her voice trembling. There's something I need to tell you, something I have been struggling with for a while now. Babajide's grip on her hand tightened, his heart sinking as he braced himself for whatever she was about to say. I have been thinking a lot about our life, about the future, Basira continued, her voice barely above a whisper. And I have been feeling conflicted. I have been questioning whether this is the life I really want, whether I'm truly happy. Babajide's heart broke at her words, but he kept his voice steady. Basira, I know our life isn't perfect, but we have built something beautiful together. I love you and I want to make you happy. If there is something you need, something I can do to make things better, please tell me. Tears welled in Basira's eyes, and she looked away, unable to meet his gaze. It's not that simple, Babajide. It's not just about what you can do. It's about what I want, what I think I deserve. What do you mean? Babajide asked, his voice full of pain and confusion. Basira took a deep breath, gathering the courage to continue. I have been talking to someone who has offered me a different life, a life of luxury, of wealth, a life that never thought was possible for me. Babajide's blood ran cold. Who? Who have you been talking to? Chief Tunde, Basira admitted, her voice barely audible. He's been coming to the shop more often, talking to me, telling me that I deserve more than this, that I deserve to live in luxury, to have everything I have ever wanted. The room fell silent, the air thick with tension. Babajide's heart pounded in his chest, a mix of anger, hurt, and fear flooding his mind. He knew Chief Tunde well. He was a powerful man, known for his wealth and influence, but Babajide had never imagined that he would try to take away the woman he loved. Basira, Babajide said, his voice trembling, do you really believe that? Do you really think that leaving everything we have built together for life of luxury will make you ever happy? Basira didn't answer right away. She was too overwhelmed by her own emotions, too torn between her love for Babajide and her desire for something more. I don't know, Babajide, she finally whispered, tears streaming down her face. I don't know what will make me happy anymore. Babajide felt a sharp pain in his chest, as if his heart was being torn in two. He had always believed that their love was strong enough to overcome anything, but now, for the first time, he was unsure. I love you, Basira, he said softly, his voice choked with emotion. I love you more than anything in this world, but I can't force you to stay if you don't want to. All I ask is that you think carefully about what you are about to do. Don't let the promise of wealth blind you to what truly matters. Basira nodded, her heart heavy with guilt and confusion. She knew Babajide was right, but the temptation of a different life was still strong. She needed time to think, to sort through her emotions, and to decide what she truly wanted. As she lay in bed that night, her mind raced with thoughts of the future. She knew that whatever decision she made, it would change her life forever. But she also knew that the choice was hers to make and no one else. And as the whispering wind continued to blow outside, Basira couldn't shake the feeling that they were urging her to make a choice, to finally decide which path she would take. The emotion after her confession to Babajide, Basira woke up feeling drained and emotionally exhausted. The weight of her decision was still heavy on her mind, and she knew that she couldn't keep delaying it forever. The shop was quieter than usual that day, with both Babajide and Basira lost in their thoughts as they went about their daily routines. The one lively banter between them was now replaced by a heavy silence that neither of them knew how to break. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, a stranger walked into the shop. He was an older man, dressed in simple clothes, with a weathered face that showed the signs of many years spent working under the hot sun. He carried a small wooden staff and had a gentle yet commanding presence that immediately caught Babajide's attention. "Good afternoon, sir." Babajide greeted the man with a warm smile, hoping to shake off the gloom that had settled over him. "What can I get for you today?" The man smiled, his eyes kind and wise. "A bowl of your famous beans will do, my son. I have heard a lot about them, and I thought I would come see for myself." Babajide nodded and quickly prepared a steaming bowl of ewa agoyin, placing it in front of the man with a slice of freshly baked agege bread. "Here you go, sir. I hope you enjoy it." The man took a bite of the beans, closing his eyes as he savored the flavor. "This is truly delicious," he said after a moment, his voice full of genuine appreciation. "You have a gift, my son, a true gift." Babajide smiled, pleased by the compliment. Thank you, sir. It's something I take great pride in doing." The man nodded, then looked at Babajide with a thoughtful expression. "You and your wife run this place together, don't you?" "Yes, we do," Babajide replied, glancing over at Basira, who was busy arranging loaves of bread on the counter. "It's our livelihood." The man took another bite of his beans, then spoke again, his voice calm and steady. "Running a business together isn't easy, especially when there are other temptations out there. It takes a strong bond built on trust and love to make it work." Babajide felt a pang in his chest at the man's words, as if he knew exactly what was going on between him and Basira. He nodded, unable to find the right words to respond. The man continued, his eyes now fixed on Babajide. "But it's important to remember that true happiness doesn't come from wealth or luxury. It comes from the love we share with those we hold dear, and the joy we bring to others through our work." Babajide felt a lump form in his throat. The man's words resonated deeply with him, echoing the very thoughts he had been wrestling with over the past few days. "You are right, sir," Babajide finally said, his voice thick with emotion. "But if the person you love doesn't feel the same way anymore," the man looked at Babajide with a knowing smile. "Love is a powerful force, my son. It can overcome even the greatest of challenges. But sometimes we have to remind those we love of what truly matters. We have to show them that the life we have built together is worth more than all the riches in the world. Babajide nodded, tears welling up in his eyes. I just don't want to lose her, he whispered. This man reached out and placed a reassuring hand on Babajide's shoulder. Have faith, my son, have faith. Trust in the love you share and in the goodness of your heart. And remember, sometimes all it takes is a small gesture to remind someone of what they truly value. With that, the man finished his meal, stood up, and handed Babajide a small, intricately carved wooden pendant. Keep this with you, he said. It's a symbol of protection and guidance. It will help you find your way. Babajide took the pendant, his heart full of gratitude. Thank you, sir. I don't know how to repay you. The man smiled warmly. There is no need for repayment. Just remember what I have said and trust in the love you share with your wife. With those words, the man turned and walked out of the shop, leaving Babajide standing there, the pendant clutched tightly in his hand. As Babajide watched the man disappear down the road, he felt a renewed sense of hope. The man's word had turned something deep within him, and he knew that he couldn't give up on Basira, no matter how difficult things had become. He turned to Basira, who was now looking at him with curiosity. Who was that man? She asked, noticing the pendant in Babajide's hand. I don't know, Babajide replied, still staring at the door through which the man had left. But he said something that made me realize that I can't give up on us. Basira, I won't give up on us. Basira looked at him, her heart heavy with the weight of the decision she still had to make. But for the first time in days, she felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, they could find their way back together again. As the sun began to set, casting the warm golden light over the village, Babajide knew that he had to do something to remind Basira of the love they shared. He couldn't let Chief Tunde or the promise of wealth take away the life they had built together. But what could he do? What could he possibly offer her that would make her choose him over the life of luxury and Chief Tunde promised? As Babajide pondered these situations, he felt the wooden pendant in his hand, its intricate carvings smooth under his fingers. He knew that the answer lay somewhere within him, and that he had to find it before it was too late. The winds outside continued to whisper, urging him to take action, to fight for the love that meant more to him than anything else in the world. And as the first stars began to twinkle in the night, Babajide made a vow to himself. He would do something. He would do whatever it took to win back Basira's heart, to remind her of the life they had built together, and to show her that true happiness could not be bought with wealth or luxury. Did Babajide finally want Basira back? What was Basira's final decisions? Did she follow Chief Tunde and left her true love for Babajide? Find out in part 2. Please kindly stay tuned. This is where the story becomes interesting. And please do not forget to like, subscribe, and share this story to your loved ones.